From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day. This is Dateline Malacañang. Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Sunday expressed deep sorrow over the deadly incident at the Lapu-Lapu Day block party in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, where a vehicle drove into a crowd of attendees, leaving 9 dead and multiple others injured. In a statement, the President extended the Philippine government's deepest sympathies to the families of the victims and to the strong and thriving Filipino community in Canada. President Marcos assured that the Philippine government, through the consulate in Vancouver, is coordinating with Canadian authorities. According to the Vancouver Police Department, or VPD, at approximately 8:14 in the evening on April 26th, a man drove into a large crowd of people attending the Lapu-Lapu Day Festival near East 43rd Avenue and Fraser Street. The 30-year-old male driver is already under police custody. The investigation is being led by the VPD's Major Crime Section. Organizer Filipino BC said the festival was meant to celebrate resistance and resilience. It reported racist verbal attacks targeting black performers prior to the event. The Philippine Consulate General in Vancouver earlier expressed deep concern and sympathies to the victims. The consulate provided the following hotlines to Filipino nationals who were affected by the incident. The Assistance to Nationals hotline at +1 604 653 5858. The Migrant Workers Office hotline at +1 604 767 3354, and the Vancouver Police Department Victim Support at +800 563 0808.
Dateline Malacañang.
A concert under the stars at Malacañang Palace's Kalayaan Grounds became the stage for the nation's gratitude as the government honored Overseas Filipino Workers or OFWs Sunday evening, calling them the face of Filipino excellence around the world. President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr., in a video message during the 6th Concierto sa Palacio, or in English, Concert at the Palace, paid tribute to the country's modern-day heroes whose sacrifices, he said, fuel not just families but the nation's future. Themed Concierto sa Palacio para sa ating mga OFWs, the event gathered OFWs and their families while thousands more tuned in from overseas through coordinated watch parties. President Marcos hailed OFWs as proud bearers of Filipino grit and grace abroad. The night featured homegrown artists from across the archipelago, including Rap Cañedo from Davao de Oro, Mariel Montellano from Cebu, Chito Ricafrente from Quezon, and Winchester Lopez from La Union. Likewise, the KSP Band and Prime Dance Manila took the stage to pay tribute to migrant workers. Ruben Laurente, a former member of the company and an OFW himself, also performed as special guest. Officials from the Department of Migrant Workers, Department of Foreign Affairs, Department of Trade and Industry, and the Department of Tourism were present to reinforce the state's ongoing commitment to OFWs. The government, under the Marcos administration, has been championing initiatives aimed at protecting migrant workers and supporting their families, from expanded migrant workers' offices abroad to free healthcare at the OFW hospital in Pampanga province and dedicated lounges at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport or NAIA. The event continued the tradition of themed concerts hosted by Malacañang, with previous editions honoring soldiers in April of 2023, national athletes in August of 2023, teachers in October of 2023, healthcare workers in June of 2024, and Philippine cinema stars and workers in December of 2024. Let us listen to the video message of Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. during the event.
Mga minamahal kong kababayan na overseas Filipino workers, ang gabing ito ay handog namin sa inyo. Ito ay simbolo ng aming taus-pusong pasasalamat at pagsaludo sa inyong di matatawarang sakripisyo at dedikasyon upang mapabuti ang inyong pamilya, komunidad at bansa. Isa kayo sa mga dahilan sa pag-unlad ng ating bayan. Patuloy ninyong ipinapamana sa mundo ang likas na galing, tatag at sipag ng lahing Pilipino. Sa katunayan, sa bawat bansa ang aking napupuntahan, laging may banyagang nagsasabi na ang gagaling ng mga Pinoy. At tuwing naririnig ko yan, talagang tumataba ang puso ko. That makes me truly proud to be a Filipino because of how well you have represented us beyond our shores. You're serving with passionate hearts and genuine smiles. Indeed, Filipinos really do give the world our best. Kayo ang patunay na ang mga Pilipino ay kayang-kaya makipagsabayan sa ibang lahi saan mang sulok ng mundo dahil sa inyong disiplina, tapang at malasakit sa bayan. Makakaasa kayo na laging nandito ang pamahalaan upang protektahan, alagaan at itaguyod ang kapakanan ninyo at ng mga pamilya ninyo. Ngayong gabi, naway ang alay namin na musika at saya ay makapagbigay sa inyo ng ligaya at kaunting pahinga. Magsilbi rin nawa ito bilang isang paalala na bilang magkakaisang lahi, sama-sama tayong naglalakbay tungo sa isang mas progresibo at mas maliwanag na bagong Pilipinas. Muli, maraming salamat sa inyong lahat. Mabuhay ang mga bayaning OFW. Mabuhay ang bagong Pilipinas.
You just heard Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. and Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba are set to hold discussions on security and maritime law enforcement cooperation, including global trade issues, during the Japanese leader's visit to Manila this week. Japanese Ambassador to the Philippines Kazuya Endo said Friday that this summit will reaffirm Manila and Tokyo's commitment to a partnership anchored on peace and prosperity. Ishiba, who assumed the position in September, will travel to the country on April 29th to the 30th, marking his first bilateral visit to the Philippines. Endo said the two leaders will discuss the Japan-Philippines Reciprocal Access Agreement, transfer of air surveillance radar systems, and the official security assistance extended by Japan to the Philippines. Earlier, Japanese newspaper Yomiuri Shimbun reported that the two governments are in the final phase in coordinating the signing of a defense deal called the General Security of Military Information Agreement, or GSOMIA. Endo said the summit will also promote security and defense cooperation to maintain and strengthen rules-based international order and enhance collaborations on various matters. Endo then highlighted the need for both countries to exchange views on emerging global trade issues. United States President Donald Trump earlier imposed sweeping global tariffs, including a 10% baseline tariff that blankets both Japan and the Philippines. Endo said Japan backs the Philippines' goal to achieve upper middle income status and promised support in telecommunication through open RAN and undersea cables, infrastructure development of railways and highways, and energy in the form of liquefied natural gas or LNG. Japan, he said, also continues to contribute to combating climate change, improving agricultural productivity, and disaster preparedness in the Philippines. Ishiba's visit comes as the two countries celebrate the 70th anniversary of the normalization of relations next year.
Dateline Malacañang.
Malacañang confirmed Sunday that Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. personally shouldered the hospital bills of the late national artist for film, Nora Honor. Presidential Communications Office or PCO Senior Undersecretary Ana Puot said it was President Marcos and the Office of the President, not the Philippine Charity Sweepstakes Office or PCSO, that settled Honor's hospital bill. Honor, born Nora Villamayor, passed away on April 16th at the age of 71 due to acute respiratory failure following an angioplasty. Known as the superstar of Philippine cinema, Honor starred in 170 films and earned numerous awards and recognitions both from local and international organizations. She was inducted into the FAMAS Hall of Fame in 1992 and received the Film Academy of the Philippines Lifetime Achievement Award the following year. In 2022, she was named National Artist for Film and Broadcast Arts. Honor, along with renowned singer Pilita Corrales, cinema icon Gloria Romero, and internationally acclaimed chef and restaurateur Margarita Flores, will be posthumously awarded the Presidential Medal of Merit at Malacañang Palace in Manila on May 4th.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. and First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos is expected to arrive in the country on Monday following their trip to the Vatican. The first couple on Saturday joined world leaders and the Catholic faithful in paying final respects to Pope Francis. The first couple went to St. Peter's Square in Vatican City for the late pontiff's funeral, which started at 4 in the afternoon Philippine time. According to a Presidential Communications Office or PCO statement, around 170 world leaders and 200,000 people attended Pope Francis's funeral. In a statement, the president said his attendance at Pope Francis's funeral was a gesture of deep respect for a pope who touched the hearts of millions. Pope Francis, born Jorge Mario Bergoglio, passed away on April 21st at the age of 88 due to cerebral stroke, coma, and irreversible cardiovascular collapse, according to the medical certificate published on the Vatican website. In accordance with his wishes, Pope Francis will be laid to rest not in the traditional papal tombs beneath St. Peter's Basilica, but in the Basilica of St. Mary Major. He will be the first pope in over a century to be buried outside the Vatican. President Marcos, through Proclamation number 871 issued on Wednesday, declared a period of national mourning in the entire country, ordering Philippine flags to be flown half-staff in all government buildings and installations until the pontiff's burial. During his apostolic visit to the Philippines in January 2015, Pope Francis offered solace and support to the victims of 2013's Super Typhoon Yolanda and celebrated the Filipinos' resilience. Pope Francis, known for his remarkable simplicity and humility throughout his leadership, made history as the first Jesuit, the first Latin American, and the first non-European pontiff in more than 1,200 years to be elected as head of the Roman Catholic Church on March 13, 2013. He adopted the name Francis in honor of Saint Francis of Assisi, the patron saint of the poor.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Presidential Communications Office, or PCO, over the weekend announced that President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has vetoed the measure amending the Charter of the Basis Conversion and Development Authority, or BCDA. According to the PCO statement, President Marcos thumbed down the proposed amendments to the BCDA Charter because of potential conflict with existing laws and adverse impact on the government's fiscal position. In his veto message dated April 24th and transmitted to Congress, the President raised concerns over some of the provisions of the enrolled bill, including the proposed increase of 100 billion pesos in authorized capital, saying it could affect the government's fiscal integrity. The chief executive said the proposal to use the proceeds from the sale of the allocated lands from the ecozones to accrue mainly to the BCDA is inconsistent with the government's one-fund policy, limiting its fiscal flexibility in deciding fund utilization for more pressing concerns. President Marcos said the bill's language granting land ownership and authority to the BCDA is disposing of lands also contradicts Republic of the Philippines versus Heirs of Bernabe, which provides that the state is the beneficial owner of the lands transferred to the BCDA under Republic Act or RA 7227 or the Basis Conversion and Development Act of 1992. The BCDA remains a major force in creating economic opportunities in the country through the establishment of integrated developments, dynamic business centers, and vibrant communities. It engages in public-private partnerships to push forward vital public infrastructure, such as tollways, airports, seaports, and major real estate and developments. Through the years, the BCDA has proven to be one of the most successful government agencies in attracting investments, creating jobs for the Filipino people, and boosting the Philippine economy. Some of the BCDA's accomplishments are the development of economic hubs such as the Bonifacio Global City and the Newport City, and the completion of the 93.77-kilometer Subic-Clark-Tarlac Expressway. The BCDA is positioning Clark as the next investment center in Asia through high-impact projects such as the new Clark City and the expansion of the Clark International Airport.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has issued Executive Order or EO 86, allowing the issuance of Philippine visa for digital nomads or foreign nationals seeking to temporarily reside and work remotely in the Philippines. EO 86, inked by the President on April 24th, establishes a legal framework to facilitate the entry of digital nomads in the country to boost Philippine tourism and economy. Under the EO, the Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, is authorized to issue digital nomad visas, or DNVs, to non-immigrant foreigners who desire to enter and or stay in the country for a temporary period for the purpose of working remotely using digital technologies and whose clients or employers are situated outside the Philippines. The DFA is also directed to create a database of all DNV holders for monitoring purposes, while ensuring the strict compliance with data privacy requirements under Republic Act or RA 10173 or the Data Privacy Act of 2012. Foreigners applying for DNV must be at least 18 years old, must show proof of remote work using digital technology, sufficient income generated outside the Philippines, and must have an unblemished criminal record. An applicant must have health insurance valid for the DNV period, must be a national of a country that offers DNVs to Filipinos and where the Philippines has a Foreign Service Post or FSP, must not pose threat to the internal or external security of the Philippines, and must not be employed in the Philippines. Foreigners who are nationals of countries that offer DNVs to Filipinos but do not have a Philippine FSP may apply for DNV in the nearest country where a Philippine FSP is located. The DFA is directed to coordinate with the Department of Justice or DOJ, Department of Tourism or DOT, Bureau of Immigration or BI, and Bureau of Internal Revenue or BIR in studying and adopting measures to effectively implement the program aimed at attracting eligible foreigners. The DFA, in coordination with the DOJ, DOT, BI, and BIR, are tasked to issue the necessary guidelines for the effective implementation of the order within 30 days from its effectivity. The World Economic Forum, or WEF, ranked the Philippines as the 7th fastest growing remote work hub country in the world in 2023. EO 86, a copy of which was released on Friday, takes effect immediately upon the publication in the official gazette or in a newspaper of general circulation.
Dateline Malacañang.
And finally, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has created the National Task Force Kanlaon that will oversee and coordinate all government programs, activities, and projects, or PAPs, to reduce the impact of volcanic activities and hasten the recovery of affected communities. Under Administrative Order or AO 32 signed by the President on April 24th, the Department of National Defense or DND will serve as the chairperson of the task force, while the Office of Civil Defense or OCD will be the secretariat tasked to provide the necessary technical, administrative, and operational support. Other members include the Departments of Science and Technology, Environment, Public Works, Social Welfare, Labor, Interior, and Health. The task force will lead the implementation and monitoring of all PAPs for the resettlement, recovery, rehabilitation, and redevelopment of communities affected by volcanic activities. AO 32 mandates the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, or NDRRMC, to formulate the Kanlaon Recovery and Development Plan, which will serve as the strategic framework for the recovery and development of affected communities. The task force, through the OCD, is directed to prepare and submit to the Office of the Executive Secretary annual reports on implementation of AO 32. According to the NDRRMC report, the eruption of Mount Kanlaon has affected about 12,360 families or 48,528 individuals and caused 129 million pesos in damage to agriculture. Mount Kanlaon continues to exhibit significant volcanic activities which pose serious threats to lives, livelihoods, infrastructure and overall safety of communities within the Negros Island region based on recent monitoring and analysis by the NDRRMC and the Philippine Atmospheric Geophysical and Astronomical Services Administration or PAGASA. AO 32, which was made public on Friday, takes effect immediately.
Dateline Malacañang.
And that concludes this edition of Dateline Malacañang. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this is Leo Magpayo. Good day and stay safe.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.